Welcome to Morning Glory Farmstead. My name is Lolly, and this channel is all about gardening, animals, and nature. Oh, the hummingbirds are gonna love these. Hey guys, don't forget to grab my code and my link in the description box and get 10 bucks off your green stock order. And check out the details. Look at the colors, you guys. Those are so vibrant, and there are so many blooms on this plant just waiting to open up. All right, getting some good bean action. It looked like one of them had already been pulled out, but I'm happy to see life in here. Now these down here are where I just recently planted the larger tomatoes, so no action there. And the small cherry tomatoes, those haven't started coming in yet, but it shouldn't be too long before I start seeing something. Guys, I have made some mistakes this week. Now, one thing I love about being a human is that we can all make mistakes, and it's actually okay. The thing with mistakes is that sometimes the consequences are a little bit greater depending on what the mistake was. So let's just back up a few days and talk about the chain of events that have taken place, mainly from this one mistake that I made. So this really all started with me using a tiller that I borrowed from my daughter to do a job that was too big. I wanted to till up the ground in the front yard to make my flower garden, and I made a video about that. And I had a lot of fun, but I was questioning as to whether or not I was really going to be able to handle it physically because of my lymphedema. By that night, I was so sick. I went to bed, I didn't sleep well, I got up, I had a headache, I had the fever, the nausea, and about 25 to 30 other symptoms that come with these infections that I get from either not eating right or too much stress on my body. So I immediately started all the meds that I have to take for that. And so I felt good enough to do the next video, which I came out here and I sowed a bunch of seeds in the green stock leaf tier planters and also a few things in the original. But I was not myself. I am still on antibiotics and stuff. And so even though I don't have a fever and I'm out of bed, I still have a lot of symptoms. I still don't feel very good, even though I don't feel like death anymore. So that video was the catalyst for all of this. So I came out here, let me show you. Let me see if we can get it close enough, and planted those leaf tiers on the ground behind me because y'all, I'm still waiting to use the patio. I think I've got about 2 more weeks before I can put everything on it, but I might cheat and put a few things on it. Okay, so planted in those tiers, and when I made that video and I was done planting, guess where I put all the packs of seeds without ever even thinking of them again because I wasn't myself? Right there. Right on top of the wheelbarrow where they don't belong. So I left them out. We had a massive rainstorm come through last night, and it rained for hours. And I came out and I was like, what is that? All the seed packets were all over the ground behind the wheelbarrow. Some of the packets were open. Pretty sure I'm going to have some lettuce growing up in the ground if something doesn't get to it before I do. And so we'll talk about the consequences of that in just a minute. But I also wanted to mention a mistake that I made in the last video when I was talking about bower and branch, because when I was editing my video, I left out one of the main sentences that was the whole point of telling you about bower and branch. I even took you guys up front to look at those trees that I planted with the 4 grandkids that live here. I also have one that lives in Georgia, but showed you the trees so that I could make my whole point and left the point out. You might have kind of figured out what it was. But the whole point of me telling you about bower and branch was that they send you trees that are already up to like 20 feet tall, you guys. They sell mature trees. So my point with the ones up front that I showed you is that I've had them in the ground for 2.5, 3 years after planting them with my grandkids, and they're still, like, the tallest one is only 3.5, 4 feet tall. So my point was, you can have one mailed to you that is already 20 feet tall, and you don't have to wait all those years for for it to get to that stage. And they've got free delivery. They do fruit trees and all kind of other trees and shrubs and bushes and whatever. So that's what I wanted to let y'all know. I've never even bought from them, but I just wanted to let you guys know because I saw that in the Costco magazine that Dad had showed me, and I thought it was super interesting. But I missed the point that wasn't even said in my video. I had deleted it by accident and didn't even notice until I had already uploaded it. It had gotten a few views, and I was like, okay, forget it. I'm just going to talk about it in the next video and try to redeem myself. Okay, so let's talk about the ramifications for leaving all of my seeds out. So you guys, this wasn't a case where the package got a little damp and I'm gonna try to save some of those seeds. They were drenched. The ink was messed up on some of them. They were all soaked. The bags were all open and all kind of stuff going on in there. So it's one of those things where if I don't use them, they could actually get moldy and go bad. So now what I've done for myself is I've got to plant all of them. And you might be thinking, okay, big whoop, that's not a big mistake. Well, it is for me because I'm supposed to be taking it easy, which is why the last video I did was just planting seeds in my leaf planter. But now I got to plant all these seeds because I would feel really bad if they went to waste. It's just not my nature to waste things like that. So what I'm going to do is actually plant them in some grow bags that my daughter gave me. So that's great, right? I've got some free grow bags I can use. It'll probably be just about the right amount of grow bags that I need to for all of these. But the other issue is that I don't have enough potting mix on hand to fill all of those grow bags. You guys know those are kind of deep. They take a lot. So what I'm going to have to use is the potting mix that I made. If y'all watched that video where I made my own potting mix, I said that once it dried, I was gonna kind of maybe look at it, make sure I liked the consistency, the way it looked, all of that kind of stuff before I actually start growing stuff in it. So I really don't even know if it works yet because it's the first time I've ever made it and I was just kind of winging it and putting stuff in. Now, the only thing that gives me a little bit of hope is that I did use it for my pepper transplants because it was just easy and I grabbed it and I used that and they haven't died yet. Okay, so that gives me a little bit of hope, but I still feel like I need to amend this, maybe add a little bit more peat moss. My worm castings have come in. Y'all, I always want to call those mealworms because I used to feed mealworms to my chickens and to the birds all the time. I really had to train myself to say worm castings. If I ever say mealworms in a video and I don't catch it, just be like, I know what she's talking about because I've had to correct myself I don't know how many times in these videos saying mealworms instead of worm castings. But anyway, I've got some worm castings now, so I definitely want to put that in there. But I got to do all of this without all that big old shovel and wheelbarrow kind of thing that I had going on last time when I made it. The way that I think it might be the easiest is just to take my potting mix that I made and put some of it in the grow bags and then put the grow bags where I want them, like over on one of the grow bag tables over there, and then go back and amend each grow bag by adding a little bit to that so that I'm not having to shovel everything and break my back doing it. I still have a lot of symptoms that I can't even say on this channel, so those are going to remain private. Y'all, I really do have to take this seriously, even though it is my nature to have fun and I'm just positive by nature, but I'm not myself no matter what I look like. Thank God for makeup, okay? But I got to get this done because I don't want to waste 9 or 10 bags of seeds, however many it was. So I'm just going to try to do right and get them all planted. And hey, you know what? If some of them don't germinate from the other ones I plant, or maybe they don't produce as much as I wanted anyway, this could be a good thing. So it's not like it's a negative, but I like to save my seeds for the next year sometimes, just in case I can't come across any for some reason. So you guys can see how using that tiller started this whole snowball effect with all of these consequences. So that's what I'm going to be doing today, is trying to redeem myself from all the mistakes I've made this week and get these seeds planted. That plastic bin has been closed since I actually made that video because we've had so much rain. So I'm about to open it and see what's going on in there. So the reason I closed it is because there were so many days of rain. I was really worried that it was going to fill up with water and just kind of overflow and start washing all the nutrients out and totally changing the chemistry of what I had tried to create. So I just wanted to make sure it was protected, but it probably needs a little bit of life given to it now. And like I said, I'm going to be adding those worm castings as well. Oh my gosh, I almost said mealworms again. There's a few drops there from taking that lid off, but looks pretty good. Man, it feels so light and fluffy. Y'all, another funny that I wanted to tell you because it's something I never thought I'd be going, wow. Steven, the guy that did my patio, needed my wheelbarrow. And at the time, all of that was in the wheelbarrow. And I said, well, hey, let's just, we'll dump it in there and you can use the wheelbarrow. And he goes, this stuff feels really nice. And I was like, why, thank you. I made that. How prideful and stupid is that over some soil? But you guys, I was like, I've never even thought about getting a compliment on the potting mix I made. Woohoo! Anyway, I just thought that was funny, and I thought of it as I was feeling it and thinking, my gosh, this feels so much better than what I buy at the store. But is it going to work any better? The other thing I noticed this time, and maybe I'm just remembering wrong, but I feel like the store-bought stuff has way more chips and bark and stuff like that in it, whereas what I made here, there's really not a whole lot of that in there. And any big chips that were in there, I took them out. The texture is just 1,000 times better than the other stuff that I bought. It's like velvet potting mix. Is that a thing? Velvet potting mix? It is now. Now, I honestly don't think that I have enough potting mix to go in all of the bags, but if I'm going to be adding peat moss, maybe a little bit more vermiculite or perlite or something like that, I might be able to beef it up a little bit because I really don't have anything just sitting around on the property that I can dump in the bottom to fill it up. And y'all, let me just say, I would be so glad. Let's see if we can give you a shot. I'll be so glad when I can get all of this stuff on the patio. I know things look kind of like a mess out here, so y'all just excuse the mess, but it is a work in progress. I don't know if you can tell just by looking behind me. It's a little bit cloudy, but I just had to wait for another storm to go through so that I could get started. So I think these are either 2 or 3 gallon bags, but I'm okay with that. I mean, if you compare these to the tier size or the pocket size, I think we'll be just fine. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I've got about 9 packs of seeds that I need to get in here. So I think we'll be good. All right, I'm gonna start filling them up. Y'all, my grandma died in her 90s, and I'm using one of her old pots to dig out this soil. Thinking about you while I'm doing this. Y'all, something feels wrong about putting all this dirt in a white bag. Y'all, I wanted to explain a little bit about why I garden the way I do. I know there's a lot of channels out there that show you exactly what to do. There are billions of articles and magazines and things to read to tell you exactly what to do. And a lot of things that they show you are best case scenario. So sometimes if it seems like I'm just winging it, or maybe I didn't do my research, sometimes I over research things. But the reason I do it the way I do it is because what if I don't have every single thing I need, but I still need to grow food? So I think about things like that. Okay, it's great if you have 60 bags of organic potting mix, you have liquid fertilizer, you have fertilizer granules, you have perlite, you have everything you need, right? But what if you can't get every single thing that you need? I mean, there's been times that I've been to the store and they were out of bags of potting mix. And so what if they only have the individual ingredients that you need to make potting mix? I mean, even that is an ideal situation. That's not a horrible situation to be in. But my point is I like to experiment without all of the best of everything, because that is not always how the world works. Not everybody has that kind of money. There's a lot of people who live below the poverty level. And I think that, if times get hard in this country, we may not have access to every single thing we need, whether it's supply shortages or just can't get it there to the stores. You know how we've been through things like that. So sometimes I just like to see what I can do. If I was kind of in a more difficult situation, obviously not totally roughing it with nothing, but if I was in a difficult situation, would I still be able to grow this food that's so important for my health? And so even if I know, like on my pepper transplants, that I should be using a liquid fertilizer because that would really help them, I have some and I'm not using it. because I want to see, can they grow in the potting mix that I made without any of the liquid fertilizer? Because I feel like if I can use less but still get a really good quality food product or plant, I feel like that is an absolute success. Of course, I can do it right if I have all of the right things, but gardening is very expensive and I'm on a budget. So sometimes I'm just like, I'm gonna try this and I'm not gonna add particular things. Now in this potting mix, obviously I did do a lot of research, and even though I'm kind of winging it with the measurements, it's not gonna be the exact same as the store. And there may be things that I don't have in it that they have in it, but I still wanna see if it grows. So I just kind of wanted to explain my philosophy on why I experiment and sometimes why it seems like I don't do things like everybody else. It is very intentional, because I just want to see what I can do with what I have. So that makes me feel really good. I only used half of it, and so if the peat moss and stuff like that isn't enough, then I can go ahead and add a little bit more of this to it. Y'all, for me, steps count, and I don't mean trying to do 10,000 in a day either. On the ground, I got some peat moss, but here in front of you, I got perlite, some fertilizer, and some worm castings. I don't know that I really need more of the fertilizer and perlite, but I'm just trying to beef things up a little bit so it fills the bag up a little bit more. And because I don't want to walk all the way down to the shop because I'm trying to take it easy, I'm gonna use this wooden spoon to mix everything up with and hope I don't break it. But if I do, it's all right. Hey y'all, just an FYI, I am loving these grow bag tables that I made out of the pallets that were left. They have been so convenient. I've used them a ton. So these are those worm castings, nice and dark and healthy. I always feel like I'm cooking when I do this. Let me show you. All right, I added a little bit more perlite to all of them. Not sure I really needed it. Again, just bulking it up. I had to cover my face so I don't inhale it because I got asthma. Okay, the last thing I'm gonna add is the peat moss, okay? And that's really to add some bulk to it. It puts a lot of dust in the air, just like the perlite, so I'm gonna get the hose ready so that I can hose these down in just a minute. I'm gonna wet it down just a little bit so that I'm not breathing everything in when I try to stir it up. Y'all, it is looking like it's gonna rain again. Major clouds moving in. Okay, now because I know what I put in it previously, I really don't feel like I need to keep adding amendments. So since I had so much potting mix left, I'm gonna go down there and I'm gonna grab a little bit more to fill these each up. And then I'm gonna mix it all up and plant those seeds again. All right, time to get it mixed up. Can we just talk about how much easier it is to mix when you're not bent over upside down? I don't really feel the need to mix it all the way to the bottom. I put the same thing on the top that's at the bottom. I'm not gonna worry if I'm not all the way to the bottom mixing up. That's a lot of hard work. I gotta take it easy, you guys. I always say, even if I feel like I can do it, my body is gonna tell me no. And if I don't listen, I'm gonna pay the price. It's looking real good. I may want to go buy some of my own potting mix after this, if it doesn't kill everything. I know that some people put stuff in the bottom to fill it up instead of using so much potting mix because it's expensive and things like that. But I'm not too worried about it, and it's not going to go to waste because I always recycle and just keep amending stuff. I'm definitely being more liberal with the seeds than I normally would be. All right, I'm going to start with some Shanghai choy. It's gonna explode out of this bag, and I'm gonna mix it with the baby bok choy. Okay, and I'm just gonna cover it up gently. These bags aren't full to the top, but I'm not too worried about it. If they start settling down too much, I'll add some more. Now this kale is getting its own for sure. Kale has always had the biggest root system in my green stalks of all of them. I mean, sometimes it'll grow into another tier. Out of control, kale. Woo, that's a lot of seeds, y'all. All right, on to the Georgia Southern collards or Creole collard. All right, Chijimisai, one of my favorites. I'm really excited about it. Not as many seeds in that one. I think this is probably one of the ones that dumped outside over there in the grass. All right, giant noble spinach. They look like little rocks, little tiny rocks. Now, I'm probably gonna regret this later, but I'm about to do 3 tomatoes in 1 bag and just see what happens. But I'm not gonna do the whole bag of seeds. Y'all, this is so many seeds. I gotta figure out a way not to waste the rest. So I'm doing the Pontano Romanesco, the Jersey Breeze again, and the Cherokee Purple. Y'all, if this stuff, I was about to say, if this doesn't grow with all these seeds I'm putting in, but I forget, I'm using the potting mix that I made. There's a whole nother factor involved here. Okay, with the tomato seeds, there weren't really that many left, so I don't feel too bad. They might be smaller plants just because they're crowded, but that's all right. We'll just see what they do. You know me, I'm always experimenting. All right, I'm gonna give them a good water. Y'all, I just spilled some miscellaneous seeds all over the ground back here. I may have some bok choy or something growing up here in about a month. Remember, you don't have to water deep when you're just doing the seeds on top, okay? I just gotta make sure they stay moist. So they've already packed down even more, but there's so much sunlight, I don't think that's gonna be a problem with them not being able to get sun in here. And I would say they have a good 10 inches at least of growth room in the bag. For the greens, that's not gonna be an issue. For tomatoes, maybe. We'll just see how it goes. I made the executive decision when I added a little bit more of my potting mix on top, but I didn't stir it up, that I'm okay with that, because I had already made this potting mix with some of the same ingredients, and I think that by the time they develop roots and they get down into the center, there's gonna be a lot of stuff in there waiting for them when they get there. So we are good to go. Now we just wait and see if the potting mix that I made actually allows them to thrive. All right, y'all, another morning's work done. It is starting to get hot now. I'm sweating. Time to get inside and get my feet up. Thank y'all for hanging out with me and forgiving me for any mistakes I make now or in the future. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week and weekend. I'll see you real soon in the next video. And until then, y'all have a great couple of days. Bye-bye.